Yeah, I don't know what the golden age of America looks like, but it surely doesn't look like a 101st day in which we have a negative quarter of growth for the first time since the start of 2022. Let's not forget, at the end of 2024, Donald Trump inherited an economy where the final quarter of growth was 2.4% annualized. Today, we discover the first quarter of 2025 is minus 0.3%. A majority of Americans, including 51% of Republicans, say they believe Donald Trump's policies could cause a recession this year. So, not sure people voted for a recession or for more inflation from.
Carla Sands came back. We have covered her on this channel before, and she fell apart then too. This time she sat across from Mehdi Hasan, which is a different proposition entirely. Hasan is not the kind of journalist who lets you pivot unchallenged. He came with the GDP figures, the stock market numbers, the Supreme Court ruling, the photoshopped image Trump repeated 7 times on live television, and the pardoning of 1,300 January 6th rioters. Sands came with talking points about the golden age of America. By the end of the debate, she had refused to answer whether she supports pardoning rioters who attacked police officers, refused to address the photoshopped image, and refused to acknowledge a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling against Trump. Mehdi Hasan did not let a single one of those evasions go unnoticed. This is Fool's Ballot. Subscribe if you are not already there. Now let us get into it.
Best political circuit. Carla Sands was President Trump's ambassador to Denmark during his first administration, and Mehdi Hasan is a British-American broadcaster and editor-in-chief of new media company Zetio. Thanks for joining us both.
Happy to be here, Adam.
Happy to see you. Carla, what would be your signature achievement you're looking for in the next 100 days?
Right. Well, certainly it's promises made, promises kept. I'm enjoying the 101st day of the golden age of America. And what I hope to see President Trump do is he's right now in the White House surrounded by some of the top CEOs in the world, and they're talking about the investments that they're bringing to the United States, creating jobs. President Trump has already brought over 300,000 new jobs.
Carla, President Trump has already brought a first quarter of negative economic growth, we learned today.
President Biden was losing 6,000 jobs a month. President Trump has already added 9,000 new manufacturing jobs.
Mehdi?
Yeah, I don't know what the golden age of America looks like, but it surely doesn't look like a 101st day in which we have a negative quarter of growth for the first time since the start of 2022. Let's not forget, at the end of 2024, Donald Trump inherited an economy where the final quarter of growth was 2.4% annualized. Today, we discover the first quarter of 2025 is minus 0.3%. A majority of Americans, including 51% of Republicans, say they believe Donald Trump's policies could cause a recession this year. So, not sure people voted for a recession or for more inflation from tariffs or for the decimation of their 401ks, the worst stock market 100-day performance since Richard Nixon. He has kind of taken an economy which that left-wing rag, The Economist magazine, called the envy of the world, and he's trashing it. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure it's ideology, whether it's grievance. He's obsessed with these tariffs, even though every serious economist in the United States and across the world is telling him, stop. Some of his own advisors are trying to tell him to stop, but he's not listening. So if this is what the golden age looks like, God help us when we enter the dark ages of the Trump era.
Carla, you can't argue with the numbers, GDP figures today.
Well, I can. Actually, I can argue with the numbers. So he inherited Joe Biden's numbers. It was an inflated economy from pumping taxpayer money. This was government spending propping up the U.S. economy and creating unsustainable debt. The trillions of dollars of debt President Trump has promised to bring us a
Donald
balanced
Trump added
budget.
more to the debt in his first term than Joe Biden did in his term. Actually,
he had COVID hit, so that's a tilt. That's not fair. COVID hit President Trump's best economy in the history of our country in 2019. Now he's bringing that economy back. You're speaking over me. I didn't do that to you. It's not really so polite.
Yeah, let's be polite on the 101st day.
Absolutely.
Carla, I mean, okay, let's say there's another quarter of negative economic growth and we speak in 3 months' time. Is that okay? Is that a price worth paying for what Donald Trump wants to do to the economy?
So what President Trump is doing is, and let's just remind all your viewers, The press in the US covers President Trump 96% negative. It's a miracle he has any positive rating in the polls. But in the UK and EU, it's even more negative. So I'm sorry that your media brainwashes you, but the fact is President Trump is doing the hard work of righting the American economy, reindustrializing our nation. We were slipping into a service economy, and you cannot be a great power if you don't make things. You have to manufacture things. You have to make steel and aluminum. You have to be able to make your own ships, and you have to have your own rare earth minerals and prescription precursors.
Okay, let me ask Mehdi if he's been... Carla, let me ask Mehdi if he's been doing any brainwashing lately.
Well, first of all, the manufacturing boom has been, the manufacturing boom was happening on Biden's watch, as all the numbers showed. But in terms of, it's funny to talk about brainwashing when the entire MAGA message is Donald Trump and Fox brainwashing people into believing insane things like the last election was stolen. Last night on American television, on ABC News, Donald Trump tried to claim that a photoshopped image of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man from Maryland, the El Salvadoran who had caught in the U.S., said could not be sent back to El Salvador. But he defied the court, the Trump administration, sent him illegally back to a torture camp in El Salvador. And Donald Trump went on live TV, and 7 times, Adam, 7 times, he said that MS-13 was written on his knuckles, because this was the digitally photoshopped image that Trump was given by his aides and that they put out to right-wing media. It's a photoshopped image. Trump 7 times claimed to the audience that those numbers were really there on his hands. That is the level of delusion and gaslighting and dishonesty in this White House. I mean, every president lies. George Bush lied, Joe Biden lied, or Barack Obama lied. But no one lies like Trump. To take an image that's fake, that's photoshopped, that's demonstrably untrue, and repeat 7 times on national television. No, he had the letters MS-13. Is he mentally competent? We talked about Joe Biden's competence. Is Donald Trump mentally competent? Recently, he told Time magazine, Adam, that he won at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against Trump and said you must facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They are violating the Supreme Court. They are violating lower courts. That is what they're doing in this 100 days.
Okay, Carla, is your man relying on a doctored image and falling for fake news with that picture?
Adam, I don't want to waste the time of your viewers talking about an inconsequential known gang member. I want to talk about how President Trump has brought $5 trillion of new investment into the United States, how we're making America healthy again by taking the dyes out of the food and finding actually the cause of autism, a heartbreak for so many American families. They're losing their children. And also making America safer, taking the DOD, which was going woke and very like an indoctrination center, and creating again that lethal fighting force focused on the mission of
what was
keeping
happening
the
at the
United States
DOD's
safe.
Department of Defense? What was happening in the military caused by woke, as you put it, that was so bad, Carla?
Yeah, so the US, the DOD under the radical leftists controlling Joe Biden, who your media never talked about as mental incompetence, and everyone saw it even in 2019.
Mental incompetence, you won't even defend.
Mehdi, let Carla finish, and I'll come back to you.
If I may, so we saw the Pentagon refocus on the security of the United States instead of doing things like censoring Americans. How about what USAID was doing, destabilizing the world and funding terrorism from U.S. taxpayer dollars? It's unconscionable.
Okay, let's let Mehdi respond to some of the things
Democrats.
that you were saying there.
Sure.
Yeah, you said a lot there. I mean, look, what she said about USAID is false. Elon Musk and Doge are super unpopular, have failed, they're being thrown out. She talks about she says she doesn't want to talk about inconsequential gang members. The president, 7 times, as the journalist tried to move on, insisted that the journalist concede that words were written on a hand that were not written. That's mental incompetence. He's deluded.
Well, it could just be a mistake, Mehdi. That's not a sign of like a mental fitness.
Hold on, Adam. He held up a photo that was doctored. That was bad enough a week ago. We were told, oh, he didn't mean it literally. And last night he told us he literally believes 7 times that this guy has MS-13 written on his knuckles, a guy who shouldn't even been in El Salvador, and he's defying a Supreme Court ruling that Carla doesn't want to mention. As for making America safe, Donald Trump pardoned 1,300 rioters on his first day in office. His own Vice President, J.D. Vance, his own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said he wouldn't do it. He did it. He pardoned 300 people who attacked police officers. Can Carla defend that, or does she want to move on from that? How do you defend pardoning 300 people who assaulted police officers, more than 100 police officers? He pardoned them. How are you okay with that?
we're talking about the noise and not what actually matters.
Okay.
The fact that this
Those are facts, though,
Salvadoran,
Carla.
I'm sorry, this El Salvadoran citizen had already had a removal order. He had had his day in court. He had had his hearings. He
The
had come in
Supreme
twice
Court says
illegally.
9-0. He must be brought back. 9-0.
So I
All
don't
of
think
your
that
Republican
the Supreme
justices.
Court of the United States actually makes American foreign policy. That comes from the executive. And so sometimes
It's
the
not a
court
foreign
doesn't
policy
get
decision.
it
It's a
right.
due process decision.
But at the same time, we need to see that our country is run in a constitutional way, and we have separation of powers, thankfully. But what I want
And
to
he's
focus
defying the
on
Supreme
is the
Court.
great things that President Trump and his incredible administration are doing, bringing down the cost of gas.
Does that
7%,
include pardoning rioters?
eggs are
You haven't
down
answered, Carla.
50%.
Do you support
The fact that we're
pardoning
going back to
rioters who attacked
energy
police officers?
dominance. Again, you're
Everyone
speaking
can tell
over
from
me.
your... You didn't answer my
You don't
question.
even want the viewers to
Do you know
hear
what?
the good
I'm
news
just going to
of what's
pause you
happening
both
in the
there,
United
just
States.
in the
1,200
interest of
rioters.
people making sense of what's going on. Last few words from each of you. Do you think Donald Trump will be celebrating peace between Russia and Ukraine, brokered by him, in the next 100 days? Carla, yes or no?
Wow, that would be an amazing thing, and we should all pray for peace between Ukraine and Russia. I really hope it's successful. He said it would be harder, that the Israel-Hamas war would be easier to solve than the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm hoping that between Putin and Zelensky and these peacemakers that are coming together, that it will be successful so that the killing ends. That would be the most wonderful 200-day celebration. So I hope that you're right, Adam.
Mehdi, any chance?
Adam, I'm glad you asked that question. Trump said multiple times he would solve the war in 24 hours before he entered office. We're now 240 hours in. We're 100 days into this thing. And 2,400, sorry, I can't even do maths.
Yeah.
2,400 hours later, and he hasn't done it, right? Because he lies.
Mehdi, you have
He
me
berated
questioning your
Zelensky
mental
in the Oval
fitness
Office.
after that.
I know, my mental fitness, but I conceded I was wrong, and Trump's never done that. 2,400 hours later, he has not solved the Ukraine conflict. He's actually been tougher on Canada and Denmark, our NATO allies, than on Vladimir Putin.
Thank you very much, both of you.
Let us go through what happened in that debate properly, because there are several moments that deserve to be named clearly, and the photoshopped image moment is the one that matters most. Trump went on live American television and showed an image of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man his administration illegally sent to a torture camp in El Salvador in defiance of multiple court orders. The image showed MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. The image is demonstrably photoshopped. It has been confirmed as doctored by multiple fact-checkers and news organizations, and Trump repeated the claims 7 times during the interview. Not once. Not as a passing reference. 7 times. After being shown that the image was fake. After being given the opportunity to correct himself. 7 times. Hasan asked the question that the moment demands. Is Donald Trump mentally competent? That is not a partisan attack. It is a reasonable question to ask about a man in the most powerful office in the world who insists 7 times on live television that words are written on someone's hand when those words are provably not there. Sands refused to engage with this completely. She called Garcia an inconsequential known gang member and moved on to talking about investment figures and dyes in food. But the photoshopped image is not a minor story. It is not a distraction. It goes to the fundamental question of whether the President of the United States is operating in reality. A man who cannot distinguish between a real image and a digitally altered one and then repeats the false version 7 times on national television is not a reliable narrator of anything, including his own economic record, his peace negotiations, or his administration's legal conduct. Then there is the Supreme Court defiance, which Sands also refused to address directly. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0, unanimously, that Trump must facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. 9 justices, including the 3 Trump himself appointed. A unanimous court. And the Trump administration has not complied. Sands tried to argue that the Supreme Court does not make American foreign policy. Hasan correctly pointed out this is not a foreign policy decision. It is a due process decision. It is about whether the executive branch of the United States government is subject to the law. When a president defies a unanimous Supreme Court ruling, he is not making a foreign policy choice. He is declaring himself above the law. That is not a partisan observation. It is a constitutional one. The GDP figures are the other pillar of the exchange, and they deserve to be stated plainly without the noise Sands generated around them. Trump inherited an economy that grew at 2.4% annualized in the final quarter of 2024. The first quarter of 2025 under Trump's policies produced negative growth of minus 0.3%. That is the first negative quarter since 2022. The stock market has had its worst 100-day performance since Richard Nixon. A majority of Americans, including 51% of Republicans, believe Trump's policies could cause a recession. These are not left-wing media talking points. These are published economic data from institutions that have no political incentive to misrepresent them. Sands tried to blame this on Biden's economy. Hasan pointed out that Trump added more to the national debt in his first term than Biden did in his. The COVID defense Sands offered for Trump's first-term debt does not hold because Biden also governed through the aftermath of COVID and still managed better economic metrics than Trump is currently delivering. The numbers are the numbers. You can dispute the cause of economic problems. You cannot dispute the direction of the data. And then there are the January 6th pardons, which Hasan raised and Sands ran from completely. Trump pardoned over 1,300 people involved in January 6th on his first day in office. More than 300 of those people had assaulted police officers. His own Vice President J.D. Vance and his own Attorney General Pam Bondi had said he would not do it. He did it. And Hasan asked Sands directly multiple times whether she supports pardoning people who attacked police officers. She never answered. Not because she did not hear the question, because there is no answer that works politically. If she says yes, she supports pardoning people who beat police officers. If she says no, she is criticizing Trump. So she talked about gas prices instead. This is what every Carla Sands interview looks like eventually. A long series of deflections, pivots, and ignored questions punctuated by statistics that do not hold up to scrutiny. Mehdi Hasan is one of the best in the world at not letting deflections land. He comes back. Every time. Same question. Different phrasing if necessary, but the same question. And Sands never answered the ones that mattered. She has now appeared on Fool's Ballot twice and fallen apart both times. At this point, I am starting to think she enjoys the attention. This is Fool's Ballot. Hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe to the channel if you are not already there, and share this with someone who still thinks Trump's first 100 days have been a golden age. I will see you in the next one.